But I don't think he was that, Mama. I make sure my babies were okay.
What kind of drugs did you use?
Weed.
And meth? Okay.
But I've been clean for the longest.
Yeah.
And then he cheated on me. And he kept talking to other females. And I was put through so much. He hit on me. I'm so weak.
You may not remember or recognize that voice. That's Courtney Bell. When we relaunched Court TV, the first trial we covered was the murder of a little angel. Let me show you her picture. Her name was Kaliah, little baby Kaliah, 2 weeks old. Discarded, blunt force trauma, tossed somewhere in the woods. It was tragic, it was heartbreaking, but ultimately this little baby's mother, who you just saw in that video, and father were convicted of the murder. And then after the conviction, one of the most bizarre sentencing hearings we've ever seen. And it happened like right after the trial. Things were moving fast. This part you will probably remember as you see Christopher McNabb, Kaliyah's father, and Courtney Bell, her mother, being sentenced.
He had pulled up the turtle suit and taken out his penis and was masturbating.
And I was not masturbating at all in front of her, period. The thing fell off when I stood up, and that was it. So I felt like I wanted to say it in front of her since she was the one up here slandering me.
That was the only thing you wanted to tell the court?
I got a lot to say, but I'm not going to be able to say half of it.
I don't know, because I don't know what you're going to say.
I'm innocent. I didn't do it. I just don't feel like just because somebody has domestic issues with the female in their life that they love, that they were just able to just say, oh, he don't love you and all that stuff just for everybody or whatever.
Okay, I'll ask you one simple question. You claim you're innocent, so you tell me what sentence the man or woman that you claim did this should receive.
If you ever find out who did them, they deserve to be under the jail.
Okay, so they ought to get the maximum sentence.
Most definitely.
Okay. On the crime of malice murder, I sentence you to life in confinement without parole. On concealing the death of another, I sentence you to 10 years of confinement, consecutive or after. Count one. Do you understand each of your sentences?
Yes, sir.
I didn't do this. Y'all know I didn't do this.
And you chose methamphetamine and McNabb over a baby.
It's a sickness, but I tried to be a good mama. I love my babies.
The problem, Miss McNabb, is that, like most criminals, you have this version of what a good mama is that is so far from the norm. Now, do you have any other questions? Okay, take her on.
You heard what she said there in her sentencing hearing. You all know I didn't do this. An appellate court has now agreed with her. They've overturned her conviction for second-degree murder. What does this all mean? Let me bring in our special guest joining us now in Covington, Georgia, the attorney who represented Courtney Bell, Brian Frost, is with us, represented her at trial. Brian, it's been a while. Great to see you. How have you been?
Good, Vinny. It's good to be back.
All right, let me ask you, first of all, your reaction to this news when the appellate court overturned Courtney Bell's conviction for the second-degree murder of little baby Kaliah.
It was shocking. It was very shocking. You don't often see the appellate courts overturn convictions, particularly like this one, on sufficiency of the evidence. They normally give incredible deference to the trial jury in their fact finding. So when we heard this, we were obviously very shocked.
Explain that a little bit more, though. I don't want to skip over this too quickly. The reason why this conviction was overturned, explain that to us.
Well, going back to the trial, quite simply, our defense the whole time was that if you looked at the indictment, the count 1 murder 2, was predicated on count 2, cruelty to children in the second degree. All of these allege that she actually did commit either directly or was a party to the crime of the murder of baby Kaliah. Throughout the trial, every witness that came up, all we did was negate that. And by the time we got to closing, the appellate court's opinion echoed my closing argument. It was simply put, there was no evidence, and it was all circumstantial. And when you have circumstantial, the burden of proof not only becomes proving every material element beyond a reasonable doubt, but it also has to be to the exclusion of every reasonable hypothesis, saving that of the defendant's guilt. And that, by that I mean something that would show that she was the direct or proximate cause of that individual's death. And they simply did not have that. They didn't have it at trial, and the appellate courts agreed.
So what happens now? What's the next step? Because this is an appeal. There's a Supreme Court in Georgia. Is it possible that they could overturn what the appellate court said here?
They could. However, the way this opinion was written, in my opinion, the rationale and the reasoning was a very well-written opinion. They went through and they broke it down from every perspective, count by count. Their citations were sound. I would be surprised if the state tries to take this up to the Supreme Court. I don't think, and if they do, I don't think that they will be successful. But we'll find out. They've only got 10 days from last, I think it was Friday. So we'll find out soon enough. But I would be surprised if the district attorney, who is no longer Layla Zahn, she is now a judge, but Randy McGinley is the new district attorney, and I would be surprised if Randy took that up. But that's completely his decision, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. And they could overturn it, but I don't see that.
Okay, in the meantime, let's presume that it's not overturned, that this stands as is. There was another charge she was convicted of in this case. So what does this mean in practicality for Courtney Bell? Is she walking out of prison anytime soon?
No. She was given, her overall sentence was a 30-15, and that was on count 1. Count 2 merged into count 1. In fact, in order to find count 1, you had to have count 2. So she got so those are gone, but she also received 10 years concurrent prison sentence on count 3, which was the contributing to the deprivation of a minor. And in that case, they again thoroughly reviewed the law and what they came up with, and they even made some interesting mentions of the fact that there was no experts that showed what methamphetamine can do. So they even cited at the end of the opinion, for anyone who's interested, that it was several articles about the impact of methamphetamine abuse. Things like sleep deprivation, violent behavior, confusion, insomnia, auditory hallucinations, things of that nature. They also cited the fact that it was, in fact, a crime in the state of Georgia, a felony crime to possess this. So they went along and they said the fact that she was using methamphetamines, he was using methamphetamines, he had recently beaten someone with brass knuckles, he had been beating her, that there was sufficient evidence in that regard to find that she left these children, or in this case, the one child, baby Kaliah, in a deprived state that eventually led to the death of the child.
Let me ask you the next question, and this is one everyone's wondering about tonight, and I don't know if you've had an opportunity to speak with her or you've spoken to someone who has spoken with her. What was her reaction to all of this? Is she staying clean in prison? Because I know sometimes it's difficult in prison to stay clean. What can you tell us about the state of Courtney Bell tonight?
I have not had an opportunity to speak with Courtney, so I cannot speak as to that. I'm sure she's elated. One thing that I think is probably worth mentioning, and of course this is up to the Department of Corrections, Pardon and Paroles, is that I don't think it would come as a surprise to anyone to think that your chances of parole on contributing to the deprivation of a minor are probably far greater than they are to murder in the second degree. So I can't imagine that she's anything but is very happy about the Court of Appeals decision. This would possibly, and there's nothing to say that she'll get paroled. I mean, there was a child obviously killed here, and but just the same, I think it increases her chances of a possible parole much earlier than she would have otherwise.
Going back, and I know the way you saw the evidence in the case. We know the way the appellate court saw the evidence in the case, but the jury didn't agree. As you think back, what was it that happened in this trial in a case where the appellate court said there was insufficient evidence to convict, which is rare. We can't emphasize more how rare overturning a conviction on this basis is. What do you think happened at that trial in that jury room?
Vinny, being in that environment, and I know some of your folks were there, the hatred was so thick outside the courthouse. Anytime you went on social media, I mean, it was palpable, and it was just horrible. Everywhere I went, if I went to the vet or to get a haircut, it was you could feel the hatred just because I was part of this case. She was convicted on pure sentiment, emotion, the fact that she was sitting next to him, and that's it.
Do you think if there were separate trials, it would have been perhaps a different situation if McNabb had a separate trial?
I think it would have increased her chance, but there were a lot of people that I ran into in the community that really thought she did it and that he didn't, which was shocking to me, considering that they were watching the same. I mean, they were watching what I was a part of, and there was just no evidence. Every single person that came up, either I had no questions or, the questions all ended up the same. No, she was cooperative. She asked me, the detective Alexander said she asked me for my phone number so she could stay in touch. She identified the bag as Christopher McNabb's that the baby was found in. At no point did she do anything or exhibit anything that would have indicated guilt on her part. What happened to her was her mistake was imagining she was in love with a very violent and drug-addled individual who has clearly has severe problems, and I think that the jury had they just weren't forgiving that, and they blamed her for that as the mother, and that's understandable. I understand the sentiment, but from a legal perspective, that's just not how it can be.
And I agree. I think the sentiment, because you have such a vulnerable young child. I mean, all children are vulnerable, but this is a newborn. I mean, a couple of weeks old. How could anyone do anything? And how could anyone not do everything to protect that child? I think that's another big, big part of all this. So,
indeed.
Brian, before we go here, taking a step back, big picture on is there, because we have people that watch Court TV day in and day out. They study our system of justice. Is there any lesson that you see in what has happened here, in as all of this has transpired to where we are tonight?
Well, you know, I don't know that I can do that in any future trials that I can do anything different. You know, in this case, we made a motion to change to venue, but and you know, other things.
When I
that
say
we
lesson,
did,
not a lesson for you, a lesson for all of us that are concerned about our system of justice.
I would, you know, what I always tell people is, please remember that my client sits here shrouded with the presumption of innocence and will stay that way until the state, who bears the entire burden, we bear nothing. We have to prove nothing. They have to prove every element of every crime. And the juries, I hope and pray, will take that to heart. Because if they don't, we will have more people that can be convicted for doing nothing more than, you know, being beaten up and taking drugs, which obviously occurs in millions of households all across the world. And that is not the basis for a conviction of murder. But that would be my hope, is that jurors would be cognizant of that, and I will say, tip of the cap to the Court of Appeals for really having the guts on a case like this to do a deep dive and look at this and say, you know, there simply was not enough evidence, and overturn something like this.
Brian Frost, great to catch up with you. You look great.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks
you
so
too.
much for joining us tonight and giving us some insight into all of this. When it came across the wires last week, everyone's like, wow, not expecting that. So, Brian Frost, appreciate it. And by the way, folks, you can watch Brian Frost in action because we have the trial available at courttv.com on demand. It's free. You can watch the whole thing from the beginning all the way to the end, and now you know the real ending of the case and make your own analysis of what happened inside the courtroom.